We are an administration that has vowed to uphold all the tenets of good governance. We said we are going to be inclusive, we are going to be participatory. We said we are going to be just, we will be fair, we will be equitable. We also obey the rule of law. We are not an administration that's here to witch hunt anybody, but to do that which we believe is right before man and before God.
We promise you that we will never disappoint you, and we promise to justify our appointment by taking Ogun State Civil Service and Ogun State at large to the next level.
Thank you, sir, for putting smiles on our faces and the faces of our family.
We are unique among all the governments we have in the 36 states in this country. And since Ogun State was created, it is to be noted that some governors in other states disengage their employees. We also make payment of 9 month arrears to all people employed.
A massive rehabilitation project was carried out at the National Youth Service Corps camp at Shagamu with the provision of adequate facilities.
Our youth-friendly governor, immediately I visited him and I approached him. He immediately asked his engineers to follow me to the camp. I want to thank him for once again, for the massive rehabilitation and renovation of the camp. If you go there, it's wearing a new look.
The government's blueprint has served as a roadmap for building a strong digital economy while taking advantage of its many tertiary institutions and enterprising youth population through human capital development. Shemilori Amore, Ogtv News.
As the world celebrates Children's Day, wife of Ogun State Governor Mrs. Bamidele Abiodun has called on children not to despair but remain resilient and face the challenges of future at this critical time of schools closure due to the outbreak of COVID-19. Mrs. Abiodun made this call while distributing relief materials to indigent children in 4 geopolitical zones of the state. Our reporter Adebola Oshomoji reports.
Children's Day, a day set aside to celebrate children and highlight the issues surrounding their upbringing, as well as the promotion of their rights to proper development. Contrary to the traditional way of celebration, children could not converge following the federal government's directives to curb the spread of coronavirus. Alternatively to this effect, wife of Ogun State Governor Mrs. Bamidele Abiodun toured the 4 geopolitical zones area of the state to celebrate this year's Children's Day as she put smiles on their faces.
Samuel, good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you? Happy Children's Day. How old are you, Samuel?
I'm 14 years.
What does Children's Day represent to you?
Today is our day.
Children visited were marveled at the gift presented by the governor's wife. In a way of interacting with the children, Mrs. Abiodun thereafter connected to virtual session in our residence, organized by Integrity Campaign Group in conjunction with the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development and the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology.
And we thank all the children today because you are so good. And that's why Governor Abiodun is celebrating all of you today to say, well done, keep up the fantastic work you're doing. Make sure you keep on getting yourself, you keep yourself safe at all times.
While felicitating with the children virtually, Mrs. Abiodun charged them to observe all precautionary measures put in place by the government to curb the spread of coronavirus in the state.
Wash your hands, wear a mask, maintain social distance. It's very, very, very important. The coronavirus is not something that you can see with your eyes, but it does not mean that it is not present.
She also urged children to see the pandemic as an inspiration to study hard and embrace ICT in enhancing their talent and skills.
I want to encourage your friends and others to start learning how to use technology from now on, not just for your classroom and not just for meetings like this, but you should do some research. It will help you to stand with children all over the world. Learning through technology is what will help you to excel in the world today.
This year's Children's Day theme, Promoting Government Child Education for a Sustainable Future, centered on the importance and place of girl-child in attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. Adebola Oshomuji, Ogtv News.
As the world celebrates Children's Day, May 27 is set aside for Children's Day celebration in Nigeria. It was established by the United Nations in 1964 and remains important in the lives of many Nigerian kids. Kunle Ibikunle reports that this year's celebration, held at Oguntech Hub, ABDUCTION, was virtual as school children were selected from various schools towards curtailing the spread of coronavirus pandemic in the state. Details of his report are in this package.
May 27 of every year, children are granted a holiday while several activities are also organized to celebrate the Children's Day, most especially in Ogun State. But this year's celebration with the theme, Promoting Girl-Child Education for Sustainable Development, was marked in a low key as children from selected schools were invited for the virtual celebration in order to curtail the spread of the global coronavirus pandemic in the state and by extension Nigeria at large. Reflecting on the theme of the celebration, the Special Advisor to the State Governor on Women Affairs, Honorable Adijat Oladapwa Deleye, and the Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Mrs. Olufumilayo Efuakwe, encouraged the girl child to remain focused.
Saying goes that where there's a will, there will always be a way. Considering the prevalent situation in the country, people believed, oh, it's not going to be possible to celebrate our children today, but technology made it possible, and that is why we are having this virtual Children's Day. But we give God all the glory that we are here, and our children are here, and everything is going on smoothly.
And for the team that is like the girl child, we know that for girl child, it's a way of making them know that, yes, being a girl does not mean you are less privileged to the other sex. So it's a way of training them, putting some confidence in them, and making sure that they enjoy their day. You know, the governor of Ogun State, Prince Ogtv, is a lover of children, lover of women, and of course, he won't just let the day go by without celebrating them. As Ministry of Women Affairs and the First Lady, Office of the First Lady too, is celebrating them in grand style to have confidence in themselves and to make sure that they are not distracted with everything. And we parents should not leave our jobs for others to do.
The children featured in many social activities, which include poetry, cultural display, musical performances, among others. High point of the celebration was the presentation of trophies to winners of various competitions.
Children's Day initiative was introduced as a way of protecting children's rights against violation within the member states of the nations. With coronavirus ravaging the world, this year's event was celebrated indoor in order to contain the spread of the pandemic. Shemilore Amore has the details.
Children's Day is celebrated annually on the 27th of May to promote togetherness among the children. The day is dedicated to reaffirming the protection and safeguarding of the rights of children. Due to the global pandemic ravaging the world, this year's celebration is observed indoor, devoid of its annual parade and other activities. While speaking to Ogtv News, some children appeal to government to expand public education awareness across the country for intellectual development of children.
this one should be a time where families should interact, because it is a family that takes how a child will be when he grows up. So the family should make sure that they give the child the best they can during this lockdown.
Due to this pandemic that we're not able to go to the stadium, parents should see it as a medium to make their children happy and find one or two things in order to celebrate the Children's Day and make it a memorable one.
Let's take to safety precautions. Since it's just a test of time, we're going to go over it. And my right as a child, it's a pity that in Nigeria today, our right as a child are often infringed upon. But I believe that children of today are leaders of tomorrow. So if we later get into power, we'll change this notion.
It is pertinent to note that one grave problem that children are facing is child labor, as many of them are still exploited and trafficked to do harmful jobs.
If you deprive a child of his right to education, you are also damaging your own future. Because once the future leaders have been deprived of their rights, then the whole country and the system is doomed. Because the children of now should be trained for the future.
We have a right to education, right to freedom of speech, right to life, and right to... There are so many rights, but major rights for us as children is right to education.
My right, I have a right to life, right to education, freedom of expression, right to partake in government, and a lot of rights.
In recent times, issues such as child labor, kidnapping, molestation, among others, which have led to an increasing number of out-of-school children, have been on the front burner, with child rights activists intensifying efforts to give children a voice. In 1959, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. Shemilori Amore, Ogtv News.
Wife of the President, Aisha Buhari, has urged children in the country to take online learning seriously. She stated this on Wednesday while congratulating the leaders of tomorrow on the occasion of the 2020 International Children's Day. Mrs. Aisha said despite the coronavirus pandemic that necessitated the closure of schools in the country, the education of the girl child must be sustained. She enjoined the children to enjoy the day while observing the protocol of COVID-19, adding that as everyone prays for the reopening of schools soon, the children should make use of the stay-at-home order by taking the online studies seriously. The theme for this year is promoting girl-child education for sustainable development. She noted that all must ensure that girl-child education is sustained in terms of quality and skill. Still to come, Presidential Task Force validates 3 out of numerous claims of COVID-19 local care. More news and reports after this break. Welcome back. You're still watching Ogtv News on 25 UHF, 260 on DSTV, 100 on GoTV, and 131 on Star Times. The first phase of 130 housing units by the current administration in Ogun State, known as Prince Court in Abeokuta, is at 95% level of completion and will be replicated in major towns and cities across the 3 senatorial districts of the state. The Governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, stated this while on an inspection of the level of work done in their state. Governor's Office correspondent Tunde Olaniro reports that the Governor revealed that the project is being executed through direct labor with no third-party contracting, thereby solving the twin challenge of provision of housing and employment generation. His reports.
Of 2- and 3-bedroom housing units on ground, which is the first phase of the whole 450 units that we planned for phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. As we speak, this estate is already energized. I mean, the light is on. Water recirculation already done. We've done the road artwork. We are looking at it. By this time tomorrow, it will be covered with asphalt. The perimeter fence is already in place, fully secured.
the drainages are well working, and every services are working and functional at the moment.
Prince Court Kenta Idiaba Bekuta is the initiative of the current administration in the state aimed at tackling the housing deficits in the state.
The interconnecting roads, they've prepared the surface to receive the final cost of asphalt. The project is probably about, in my estimate, maybe about 90–95% completion. We inspected one of the units. It's well finished. I believe that this project speaks for itself. It properly characterizes this administration, our resolve to provide quality infrastructure for our people in line with our campaign promises. It is our desire to fast track this, but for the pandemic, this project would have been finished at least probably a month ago. But despite the pandemic, you can see that a lot of progress has been made. We plan to repeat this across the 3 states,
which has a uniquely fitted yellow roof, has the capacity for expansion.
There is no citizen of this state that will not be proud to live in such a civilized environment as this. As a matter of fact, I think the problem we're going to be faced will be how to allocate this first 130 against the deluge of application forms and payments that have been received thus far. But I've charged the Honorable Commissioner and his team to immediately proceed to the second phase and fast track it so that we can meet the demands of our people. We've provided decent accommodation, well finished. We've also ensured that they have enough circulation areas and space inside and outside the building. We provided for the buildings to be expandable. Can become a 3-bedroom, a 3-bedroom can become a 4-bedroom. That's why we've been so generous with the land size. Each unit comes with approximately about 300 square meters of, dwelling space.
The governor urges the would-be beneficiaries to maintain the property.
My advice to the would-be successful bidders is to look at the thinking behind this project, the commitment, the time, the energy that has been put into it, and to do the needful in maintaining it and utilizing it in such a way that it will continue to be a befitting estate, not just for them, but for everyone who is a citizen of the state.
Prince Court Housing Estate is a special, well-fenced housing estate in a serene environment, which is the fulfillment of the campaign promises of Prince Dapo Abiodun. Tunde Olaniro, Ogtv News.
The Presidential Task Force, PTF, on COVID-19 on Wednesday announced that 3 out of the numerous claims of COVID-19 herbal care have been validated and forwarded to relevant authorities for validation. The chairman of the PTF, Boss Mustafa, made the announcement while briefing journalists in Abuja. He said the validation was made by the Federal Ministry of Health after holding a virtual meeting with Nigerian researchers and scientists. He noted that the decision to meet with the researchers was also prompted by the incident of mysterious death in Kano and some other cities. The occurrences in Kano and some other cities have given cause to launch research initiatives using existing structures and systems in a manner that will build a legacy and prepare Nigeria for any future pandemic. He said as a measure of the importance attached to research and development of local capacity for finding a cure for COVID-19, the Federal Ministry of Health held a virtual meeting with a number of researchers and scientists with claims to cure COVID-19. The PTF chairman stressed that the subject of research is central to the PTF and the Central Bank of Nigeria is willing to support research efforts. He therefore urged researchers to take up the challenge and come boldly forward with their innovation. The federal government has said it will roll out the course of action for the reopening of schools in the country. The chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, stated this during a briefing on Wednesday in Abuja. While congratulating children in the country on the occasion of this year's Children's Day, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation urged stakeholders to begin to take steps that will aid reopening of schools in the country. He said the Federal Ministry of Education will roll out measures for the self-reopening of schools, adding that the federal government is considering morning and afternoon sessions in schools across the country. The Presidential Task Force used the medium to urge state, local government, proprietors, and all other stakeholders to begin to take steps that will facilitate an early and safe reopening. 5 patients have died of coronavirus-related complications in Lagos State. This brings the total number of COVID-19 deaths in Lagos to 47. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control made this known via its situation report published on Wednesday. According to the report, 7 other states recorded 11 COVID-19 deaths in the last 24 hours. 2 people have died from coronavirus in Oyo State. 6 additional persons also tested positive from a latest result, while 17 persons had their second negative test results. The figures bring to 75 the number of discharged cases, 6 deaths, and 250 confirmed cases in the state. Governor Seyi Makinde gave the hint in an update on his social media handle on Wednesday. 1 case is from Ison Experiences and 1 each from Ibadan Southwest, Ibadan Southeast, Surulere, Ido, and Egbeda local government areas. The United Nations Children Fund has solicited support from the government, organizations, parents, and other stakeholders to enable adolescent women and girls have safe and proud menstrual cycles, particularly during school periods. The World Body lamented that one of the difficulties faced by young girls, especially during school hours, was the inability to access hygienic menstruation, bringing about some of the girls refusing to attend classes during their menstrual periods and from there drop out of schools. The agency emphasized that provision of water, sanitation, and other menstrual facilities will help the girls gain confidence in staying at schools during the periods, and pleaded that traditional inhibitions of girls during menstrual cycle be lifted. UNICEF Nigeria Watch Manager Mamita Borataka made the plea in a statement to celebrate the 2020 Menstrual Hygiene Day, observed worldwide on every May 28. Taka said that stigmatizing adolescent girls and women for something that is natural and normal because of myth and false beliefs undermines a woman's basic rights. The UNICEF chief stated that an appropriate program in schools could require a multi-pronged strategy involving the commitment of several ministries, stakeholders like UNICEF, civil societies, and others. Towards ensuring that Ogun State stands out in the areas of agricultural industrialization, job creation, and food security through increased productivity of smallholders farmers, distribution of planting materials has been launched by the wife of the state governor, Mrs. Bamidele Abiodun, at the Agro Service Center in Ikene. 80,000 kg of maize, 80,000 bundles of cassava stems, including pest controls and fertilizers, distributed free of charge to 40,000 smallholder farmers under the project. Effectual report is presented in this package.
As part of its sustained efforts at providing succor to farmers during this COVID-19 pandemic ravaging the nations across the globe, Ogun State Governor Prince Dapo Abiodun has again distributed free planting materials to smallholder farmers in the state. Representing the governor at the Agro Service Center Ikene for the distribution exercise was the wife of the governor, Mrs. Bamidele Abiodun, who discloses the method of distribution to beneficiaries.
The estimated 80,000 kilograms of maize and 80,000 bundles of cassava to be distributed free of charge to 40,000 farmers in this project will be able to plant 3,200 hectares of maize and 1,600 hectares of cassava, which will be an additional seed bank in the hands of smallholder farmers, in addition to other hectareage they are cultivating in their larger spaces.
The COVID-19 planting materials palliative for smallholder farmers project, according to the Commissioner for Agriculture, Dr. Adiola Odedino, is one of the measures taken by the state government to ease the burden of interested farmers on input acquisitions for the betterment of all.
The pillar of agricultural intervention approved by His Excellency for the Ministry of Agriculture clearly have as top priority food security and support to smallholder farmers.
Dr. Odedino states further that the initiative is also born out of plans of the state government to prepare ahead of post-COVID-19 impact on the agriculture sector in the state.
It is a joyful experience to see that agricultural activities and rural economy in Ogun State have not collapsed. And we shall continue to bring more people into agriculture as part of our collective responsibility to food security, job creation, and agricultural industrialization.
Dignitaries present are representatives of smallholder farmers while receiving their inputs, which comprises of cassava, maize, cashew, cocoa, fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, and chemicals, show their gratitude for the initiative.
I believe this is a nice one, and farmers are happy to receive it at this crucial period.
We will continue to work with the state to ensure that you have access to more nutritious crops, such that as we are addressing food security, we shall equally be addressing nutrition security.
Very happy with the program because it's a timely program. It's what we have been expecting since, but due to the weather condition, it could not happen. Now it happened because the rain has just started. So that is why I say it is timely program.
The program, which is meant to cater for all smallholder farmers across all the 20 local government areas of the state, will also be supported by the private organizations and investors.
The bill to establish Ogun Mortgages and Foreclosure Authority regulates mortgage when passed will reduce fraud and put sanity into the mortgage business. Speaker Right Honorable Olakunle Oluomo made this known at a stakeholders forum on 3 bills, which include Bill to repeal the Public Health Law 2006 and enact the State Public Health Law 2020, and Bill to provide for the establishment of the State Audit Service Commission and Office of the Auditor General and other matters connected with. Correspondent Kola Wolosho's report is presented in this package.
Representatives of various interest groups, professional bodies and corporate organizations have made their opinions known on the 3 bills brought to the front burner of the Ogun State House of Assembly to deliberate upon. The Speaker, Right Honorable Olakunle Oluomo, in his address explained that the bill would help in making funds available for the proposed expansion of mortgage industry in Ogun State.
The establishment of the Mortgage and Foreclosure Authority in the state will help to regulate mortgage banking and different businesses in the state. This is because it's making it clear to enforce the legal value of the mortgagee and sustain court order before you can take over the position of the property of foreclosure.
Stakeholders in their separate submissions explained that the contribution of housing industry into the gross domestic products was low, saying that the challenges of the industry has been the law governing the business.
I want to believe one of the important advantages of this law is to give enhancement and effectiveness to public transactions in Ogun State.
That there is no cheap fund with low interest rates. If this bill can see the light of the day, which we pray for, it's going to be a game changer.
They stated further that housing remained a basic commodity that is needed by all sundry, appreciating the government for coming out with a bill which is said would ensure greater number of people have access to housing mortgage business. Stakeholders also bore their minds on the need to ensure that all indigents of the state are enrolled for the state health insurance scheme. They made a submission on a bill for a law to repeal the Public Health Law 2006 and enacted State Public Health Law 2020.
Smallpox. There's a lot of emphasis on smallpox, and we know that smallpox has been eradicated over 40 years now. So in those places that smallpox was used, I would suggest maybe we use infectious disease declared to be of public health emergency, so that we can cover a lot of things.
Commissioner for Health in the state, Dr. Tommy Coker, commended the Assembly for coming up with this kind of bill at the time the state needed it most. The stakeholders also have the opinions on the bill for a law to provide for the establishment of the State Audit Service Commission and Office of the Auditor General. In their separate remarks, Chairman, House committees on the 3 bills commended the stakeholders for their robust contributions and assured them that all the inputs will be taken into cognizance while passing the bills.
The National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, has sanctioned 3 broadcast stations for the report on COVID-19 considered inappropriate. Another 25 stations were also sanctioned and fined for other various offences in the first quarter of 2020. The Acting Director General, Professor Armstrong Idacheba, announced this while briefing the media on the amendments to the Broadcast Code and other issues. The stations sanctioned on the account of the report on COVID-19 are Breeze FM and Adaba FM in Akure, Ondo State. They are to pay 250,000 naira for the offences. Adaba will pay twice. On the Broadcast Code, the Director General said the amended code will soon be published. Also, the DG said a new timetable for the digital switchover rollouts will be announced immediately after the lockdown. Professor Idacheba also said part of the plan was to roll out in the 3 major cities of the country, Lagos, Kano, and Port Harcourt. He said the Commission has received assurance from signal distributors to ensure the success of the rollouts. The police command in Ebonyi State has rescued 2 siblings aged 5 and 10 who were abducted from their home in Abakaliki at gunpoint. The command police public relations officer, Mrs. Loveth Oda, said this on Wednesday in Abakaliki. She said the kidnappers demanded 10 million naira ransom but urged to abandon the children at a location in Afeko South local government area of the state after a manhunt by police operatives. Oda said the children have been reunited with their mother while efforts were being made to track down the abductors and their collaborators. No fewer than 30 bandits have been killed in airstrikes by the air component of Operation Adarin Daji in Dambaru Forest area of Zamfara State. The operation was executed based on credible human intelligence reports, which indicated that attached structure within the forest was being used by the bandit to store their logistics items. A statement by the coordinator, Defense Media Operations, Defense Headquarters, Major General John Eneche, has it that following an intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft on patrol spotted some of the armed bandits on motorcycles and were tracked to their storehouse. The air component therefore dispatched an attack helicopter to engage the location and with accuracy in its operation destroyed the store, which went up in flames. The attack helicopter subsequently trailed the armed bandits who fled the location and moved them up in follow-on attacks. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has commended the air component of Operation Adarin Daji for their professionalism and urged them to remain resolute in the war to rid the region of bandits and in achieving the directives of the Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Gabriel Olonishaki, in restoring normalcy in the northwest and north-central zones of the country. The Armed Forces of Nigeria has therefore appreciated the continued support and cooperation of all well-meaning Nigerians with a pledge to sustain the tempo of operations in the move to defeat the enemies of the country. To help improve the electrification of the grassroots in Ogun State, the Minister of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, in conjunction with the Bureau of Electrification, has taken delivery of 20 transformers for onward distribution to the local government areas. Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Afolabi Afakbe, stresses that the project is embarked upon by the local government and not the state government.
It is a local government project, it's not a state project. But as a state or as a ministry, we have a role to play, supervisory role. We thought we need to standardize what will be purchased. What is purchased in terms of quality, we need to ascertain the quality of it and everything like that. So we decided that the Bureau of Electrical should help us to supervise this to ensure that it's of good quality. The purpose is to enhance, is to improve our power supply in our respective area that devote into our different local government. In terms of need, the government came with different requests, and we thought it is important. If you see you have just 20, at least minimum of, you are going to distribute according to need. It's not necessarily mean that one local government will get one, some government can get 3, some can get 2, some may not get at all. It depends on it. So I think it's just part of the responsibility of the local government to give the event of democracy to our people.
The Special Advisor to the Governor on Energy, Engineer Lulu Adubifa, assures of the quality of the transformers and specifications.
So these 20 transformers are a mixture of the 500 kV by 11 and the 500 kV by 33. These are a strong tenet of the governor's energy master plan as part of the electrification of the state. And we're very proud to be supporting this program with the Ministry of Local Government and supporting them with technical and electrical engineering services. As you've inspected, these transformers are of the highest quality coming in from MENSTRUAL. So we had a strict criteria looking at windings, impedance, and some other technical specifications.
He stressed that the current administration in the state is irrevocably committed to ensuring a pleasurable residence and profitable business activities in the state. On business news, World Bank approved $346 million for projects in Nigeria, others in Lake Chad. This and other stories will make up the business segment of the news shortly. Welcome back. Foreign direct investment into the country dropped to $214.25 million in the first quarter of 2020 from $257.25 million in the fourth quarter of 2019. The National Bureau of Statistics disclosed this in its report on Nigerian capital importation for the first quarter of 2020. According to the NBS, the foreign direct investment, which stood at $247.37 million in first quarter 2019, fell to $223.14 million and $206.58 million in second quarter 2019 and third quarter 2019, respectively. The FDI is an investment made by a firm or individual in one country into business interests located in another country. The World Bank has approved $346 million for 2 projects aimed at strengthening resilience and livelihoods in the Lake Chad region. A statement from the World Bank explained that the projects, which are to be financed through the International Development Association, will be shared between Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria. The multi-sectoral crisis recovery project for northeastern Nigeria, additional financing for which the bank allocated $176 million, will help the federal government to improve access to basic services and livelihood opportunities for crisis-affected communities in Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe states. The International Monetary Fund has advised commercial banks to retain their earnings by suspending payment of shareholders' dividends during the COVID-19 pandemic. Its managing director, Kristalina Jeva, said retaining earnings through suspension of dividend payments will provide banks with enough capital to serve as a buffer against the adverse effect of the pandemic. She pointed out that after the 2008 global financial crisis, Regulators required banks to increase their prudential buffers of high-quality capital and liquidity to develop and strengthen the resilience of the financial system. And it's now time to bring you the world today. That's talking about the foreign segment of the news. European Union proposes 750